So, is COVID-19 winding down in the US? Has the majority of Americans been saved by their stimulus checks? Is there a need for additional stimulus? Find out. Stay tuned for this PNDA Pondering today. Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday, Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May, and I am glad to be here with you today and talk to you a little bit about news and information that might be pertinent to you that you can think about, that you can have a little pondering. So today I want to talk about the stimulus checks and the things that have been going on. Obviously, you've been aware that for the past 2 months, we've seen unparalleled disruption to the U.S. economy, labor, and stock markets due to COVID-19. We've seen more than 30 million Americans lose their jobs. We've seen that because of the economic turndown, our government has signed the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act, otherwise known as the CARES Act. And this was signed into law on March 27th. Now, the CARES Act, to give you a little information, is a $2.2 trillion relief package. And this is the biggest stimulus package in history. It sets aside money for hospitals, distressed businesses, small business loans, expanded unemployment benefits. And probably the biggest thing that you are concerned with is direct stimulus payouts to the American people. You know, there are 140 million households, about 175 million Americans that qualify for a economic impact payment. That's what it's called. And these are the $1,200 stimulus checks that you got. So far, 88 million Americans have already received almost $158 billion in stimulus money. So how effective is this? Well, just so you know, the money is meant to last an average American for the duration of the quarantine, and most of the nation went into quarantine almost 2 months ago. So when we look at if it's been 2 months, and we conducted, there was a survey conducted of 2,200 people that asked them, "Hey, how long would $1,200 last you?" And what we found out was that 74% of people surveyed expected that check to last them less than a month. The findings broke down to the following. 8% of the people said that they've already spent it all. So once they got it, they immediately sent it off. 14% of the people says that it will last them a week. 24% of the people says that it will last them 1 to 2 weeks. 28% says that it will last them 3 to 4 weeks. 12% of the people says it can last them 2 months. 13% of the people says it can last them more than 2 months. And here, according to data from the U.S. Census Bureau and bill pricing data from like Zillow and Doxo, they've determined like our stimulus checks are able to cover, let's say, for instance, the state of Massachusetts, 66% of their entire expense for the month. California, meanwhile, is about 71%. Hawaii is about 74% of their entire month's expenses they're able to cover with the $1,200. But meanwhile, in places like Mississippi and Arkansas, they're able to cover 178% of the expenses in any given month. They're basically able to cover more than the time period that we've been in quarantining. So if we talk about what we've been in quarantining, we need to also talk about how much longer are we going to be in quarantining? And no one really knows. Here's the thing. There's data that says one way or another. I don't know. All I'm saying is like it doesn't necessarily look like for most states that we're going to go back to a full open situation for another month at least, if not another couple of months. So if that's the case, does this mean that we need a second round of stimulus? Well, yes and no. I think yes, in the sense that if we take it strictly by what's been going on and it's supposed to last X amount of time period, a lot of people will have used up most of it before the quarantine ends, and there needs to be some sort of help in that. But it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do it, though. I mean, there's no guarantee that this is going to happen. However, I think you should know that there is a lot of workings in our government right now that you should be aware of, and that in the past couple of weeks, there have been 3 stimulus bills that have been proposed, and these are second stimulus bills. I'm going to outline all 3 of them and what they mean. So first of all, there is the Emergency Money for People Act, EMPA. This is a package that they're proposing to provide $2,000 of monthly stimulus check to single taxpayers and $4,000 for married couples for up to 1 year. They still would have the $500 per child for up to 3 children, and they'll also have probably a little bit different qualifications requirements for this particular act as compared to the CARES Act. So that's one. Two, another proposed act is the Getting America Back to Work Act. And this is a proposal that would have refundable payroll tax rebates that would cover up to 80% of employer payroll costs applicable to the median wage. What this means is this isn't necessarily going to put money into your pockets as general American population, but what it will help is to create avenues for businesses to continue to retain their workers and restart quickly once we're beyond the pandemic. This doesn't necessarily help anybody right now while we're going through it, but I can see it really helping the economy as it goes further along. The third one is called the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act. Now this one's kind of interesting. So rent or payments would be canceled for a person's primary residence for 1 year with no negative marks on your credit history. Now, the way they would do this is a fund would be established by the Department of Housing and Urban Development to pay landlords and mortgage holders to cover the losses of tenants and lenders not paying their rent or mortgage. So it's really interesting, these 3 different proposals and the 3 different ways that they're looking about how to help the American people. So what can we surmise from this? Well, like I said, I don't know, and I don't think that a second stimulus is guaranteed. But there's a lot of activity that's going on right now with our government that could produce something like this. What I want you to think about is there's a lot of conversation about like shutdown versus no shutdown versus it's hurting the economy or all that. I don't know what the right thing to do is. I don't know where things are at in terms of what's going to be beneficial now for health reasons, what's going to be beneficial now for economic reasons, what's going to be beneficial later for health and later for economic reasons. But I do know this. It's like there are avenues, there are options that are out there that people are thinking through and working through. And I think I'd like to give you this pondering to think about. We like to think of things as black and white. We like to think of things as like really like right or wrong, or this is the best solution, or this is the worst solution. But notice how difficult this conversation is. Even just the fact of looking at our CARES Act of the $1,200, equality doesn't necessarily exist in the $1,200, because that $1,200 will last someone in New York maybe 2 weeks. That same $1,200 will last someone in Arkansas or Mississippi upwards of 2 months. Now, is that fair? Is that equal? No, it's not equal. It may or may not be fair. I don't know, because you're getting the same amount, so maybe that's the definition of being fair. But it doesn't actually impact people the same way. If you want to look at fairness in that way, just remember this. These situations are complex, and there's no real easy, quick answer for any of the stuff. And so when you're outside, like protesting or promoting one way or another, it's fine. You have the right to do so. But just remember, it's in your mind, you're thinking it's an easy solution, but it may not be an easy solution for everyone involved, because there's a lot that has to be thought of and to work through. And so I want you to remember that and think about that as like you educate yourself and do research and find out more about these things. Then you can understand, oh, okay, these are the ramifications to me, and these are the ramifications to people outside of me. Remember, this isn't just a method for us to selfishly think about ourselves, but it's a way that we can think about ourselves in light of our world and our community all around us. So just remember, there is a lot of things going on that you may not know about. There's a lot of things that are going on that you should educate yourself and that you should think about and work through and research. So I hope this pondering has really helped you to cultivate some of that critical thinking and work through some of that. And I just hope that it's informative and that you enjoy it. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.